Ken, we know week one, or when you came here really, I guess motion was something that was talked about as something that was really going to be a point of emphasis, and we saw the difference kind of week one to week two, just what I guess necessitated you guys sort of incorporating that into the offense a little bit more this past week, and how much of an impact it can have on you guys being able to do some things that you want to do.
Yeah, I think, as the season goes, every game kind of forms its own identity, it's just one of those where situationally we just weren't able to do some of those things week one. And, week two, we were able to stay in some more positive situations to take advantage of some of those things that, whether we want to do it or whether it's, advantageous for the play or window dressing, whatever it is. And then there's going to be times where we want to play fast, get up, take the thinking out of it and snap the ball, So we're always going to try to have a balance there, use enough to make sure we're attacking the defense the way we see fit. But at the same time, making sure, our guys can play fast, both mentally and physically.
How do you think that Deshaun rebounded from the week that he had?
Yeah, I think every week Deshaun just comes out with a consistent approach, and is really just focused on that week. And I thought, not only Deshaun, but the whole offense really kind of came back and didn't let one game become two. And the thing when you look at it, there's still improvement to be made, obviously, when you watch the game. And so, we're going to take a growth set mentality, and I think that obviously starts with the quarterback room of, no matter what we do in a game, there's going to be things to learn from and grow from and maintain our confidence and just keep going in a trajectory that is going to be improving each and every week.
Deshaun, after the third down play, down the stretch there, what you come off saying to him?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that obviously situational football is big in this league, and I think it's just something we can learn from at the end of the day. Just making sure we're good on the situation and everybody's on the same page, and we just talk through the situation and making sure that it's something that we can learn from, and when we're in that situation again, hey, we would do, whether it's a decision, whether it's, the execution, however it might be, right? But it's just making sure that we're operating at a high level in those situations.
What's your take on what's going on with Cooper right now? He hasn't been a big part.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, Amari's a pro, and he does a great job preparing himself. It's one of those things where you just never know where the ball is going to go in the course of the game, and we're just going to continue to grow as an offense, and obviously Amari's a big part of that, and I think just kind of we keep plugging away, and I think when you just keep working your progressions, making decisions, not forcing the ball, the ball is going to find these guys, and I think if they just keep working and getting open, good things will happen, whether it's Amari or anybody else on the offense.
Ken, it looked like, or Kevin mentioned that Deshaun did a good job going through his reads. It looked like he was quicker with his decisions. So what changed, or what did you guys kind of do between week one and week two to help him get there?
To be honest, I don't think we didn't really do anything reinventing the wheel, to be perfectly honest with you. It's just, we every Monday we come in, or after a Sunday game, we evaluate, we learn from it, and we move on to the next opponent. And I think that's all we did. We just kind of kept that same philosophy, and I thought there was good things that we could learn from. I thought, from week one, that I think, you saw kind of carry over into week two. So, I've been really just overall generally happy with, the decision-making thought process from Deshaun. I thought there's, obviously, there's things we could do better, but, from that aspect, I think, a lot of good decisions, but each week, whether you're Deshaun Watson or, Drew Brees or Phil Bird, any of these guys who've played for a long time, there's always going to be things you can learn from,
Winston's on tape as your sneak specialist. You obviously have a lot of options. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, everyone would do what Jacksonville did and load up on that. Mm-hmm. So I'm asking, how large is the possible package when Winston's on the field in that situation?
We'll see. It's every week it just poses so many different challenges, and based off of what they do, it's this week could look very different. It could look similar based off of kind of what they're doing from a schematical standpoint up front. So. Obviously, having a guy like Jameis it gives us a lot of flexibility because you could do some different things, but at the same time, it's a lot of it dictates based off of what you're seeing on tape, and that is a constantly evolving deal, and that's what I think short yardage, as you guys saw last week. There's obviously opportunities to convert and move the chains, but there's times where there's obviously opportunities for big plays, whether Jameis is in there or Deshaun is in there.
You talk game, but every game's its own kind of silo. Dante goes from basically only one snap against the Cowboys to you getting the most carries of any running back against Jacksonville. Was that matchup? What kind of went into the thinking there to get him more involved in the run game?
I mean, look, he's a good football player, it's hard when you got a lot of good football players in that room. We got some talent in that room. We feel like, and there's going to be some games, unfortunately, where it's like, it's not dictated. It's not, in the cards for that position group at times, and you see that with whether it's receivers catching balls, tight end, all that stuff. But, I do feel like that he's a heck of a running back. He's physical, he plays fast, he hits the hole hard, and there's going to be a place for his style of play within our system. So we'll continue to try to get him involved, try to get, all those guys involved. It's just, you gotta be careful because it's like, if you're spread too thin there, then no one gets in that rhythm. So we just gotta make sure, that we've got a rotation that allows those guys to stay in a rhythm and yet still take advantage of what they do. And I think all those guys have some very good skill sets.
Yeah, since Kevin got here, the run game has been just such a critical statement of the offense. The perception, I'm saying it's reality, the perception is that in Jacksonville, you guys kind of went a little bit back to the bread and butter and you had success doing it. Was that the case? And just how important is it when you talk about getting those guys into a rhythm? How important is that going to be, keeping Jerome and Dante in that rhythm going forward?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. I think at the end of the day, you always want to be able to run the football. You always want to be able to stay balanced and be able to attack in different ways. Now, every game, like I said, that takes on a different identity. So yeah, there's going to be some games where we throw it more than run it, and some games we're going to run more than you throw it. So every game's a little different in that regard based off of what you're seeing on tape and how you feel like is the best way to attack a defense. But that being said, you always do want to have that. You always want to be physical, let your guys come off the ball and not be in a situation that's forcing you to be constant drop back pass or anything like that. So the big thing for us is staying in green situations, staying in situations that are advantageous to an offense. And I think, that's easier said than done sometimes with the defenses you face. And I think most offenses obviously try to do that. But some of your best games is when you're having that first, second down production to make sure that, you can do all those things and your whole playbook's open.
When you look at what the Giants defense presents to you guys, what are the challenges that you guys are focusing on heading into this game?
Yeah, I think, schematically they do a lot of things from a, giving you one picture and then, being able to change that picture post-snap. So some of the schematical stuff, presents some problems from the disguise to the blitz packages to just the overall soundness of how they play. There's not a lot of just guys running wide open a lot on tape when you look at him over the years. I think, he does a great job as a coordinator, assessing what he has and putting them in really good positions to force you to have to execute. personnel wise, they've got a great front, that puts a lot of pressure on not only in the pass game, but the run game as well, both inside and outside. So up there really kind of forces you to have to be physical, forces you to play well up front, and then linebackers that could go side to sideline with speed. And then I think a secondary that fits their system very well from they could play the zones and have feel and instincts, and then in the man coverage they can get up, press you, be physical at the line of scrimmage with the speed to run with you. So long story short, there's a couple different things that you got to focus on, and making sure that you're staying ahead of the chains, so that they don't get you in situations that allow those guys up front to tee off on you.
Vrabel, has he contributed more this week in the offensive meetings, considering that's his guy?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, no more than he does each week. To be honest, he's just got a great mind for the game from and been in some different systems to say, okay, hey, in this this system they're kind of doing this, and this system they're doing that. Obviously, he's got a lot of firsthand knowledge on this system, and so he's been awesome each and every week in terms of being able to help us kind of what they're doing, and then some different ways to attack it, and different ways to look at it from a defensive perspective, all within the things that we do, and not, all of a sudden coming out and saying, yeah, we should run the wing T or something, So I think that's Vrabel's strong suit is just being able to look at things from both sides of the ball to provide us great insight. And obviously with the insight he has on these guys this week, it adds to that.
Hey, Ken, on that first drive, I know it was a long one, but I think you used all 3 backs, 5 receivers, 2 tight ends, plus the extra linemen. You guys talk about getting contributions from everybody, but just was that a focus going in, and how much of a true team win was that? Because I think you used everybody on the roster.
Yeah, no, and to your point, that's what kind of guns me up a lot of times, is being able to, when you look at a stat sheet, it's multiple guys, 5, 6, 7 guys have multiple catches in a game, in the passing game. And then the run game, multiple guys have not just 1 or 2 carries, but, some multiple carries. So I love to do that, because then when you're a defense looking at that, it's oh, shoot, who you focusing on? Obviously, roster wise, there's always going to be, keys to the game for a defense of who they're locked in on. But anytime that you could keep a balance like that, and keep a defense off balance, both whether it's formation change, personnel changes, motions, and speed, tempo, whatever it is, you want to be able to do that. So I think that was something that I think was good for us in the first drive throughout the game, and it's something that, like I said, it might change based off of some weeks, based off of what you're seeing. But the last week, I think that was an advantageous thing for us.
And to go back to the 3rd and 6 play at the end, I mean, when Deshaun talked about it yesterday, he said, I saw a touchdown on that play. That's what he was looking for. So what's the balance when you have a guy like that who's going to be so instinctual versus looking for the big play in that instance versus making maybe a shorter play that situationally is more evident?
It's a great question. And at the end of the day, what we try to do is preach playing smart, not conservative football. So if a shot's there, we definitely want to take it. But, if there's any doubt, right, then in that situation, right, keep the clock running, in that situation. So, I think it was something for him that, hey, he felt like he could make a play on it. And yeah, I think you saw in that game, there was some really special, things that he got us, out of maybe a negative play, and he was able to make something happen, So to your point, you don't want to curtail that. I mean, there was a keeper that, a lot of guys were getting sacked on, and he gets us out of it and gets us, 2 or 3 yards on it, and that's just, that's special. You can't teach those things. So you definitely don't want to lose that. But at the same time, just the preaching of, hey, we want to be smart, not conservative in everything we do, but, while still allowing them to play to their strengths. And I think that's especially Deshaun, but every player on our roster.
Jerome Ford on the the
Yeah.
sweep said you wish he was faster, and yet it was the second fastest run
Yeah.
in the league this year. So is he just deceptively fast or what?
Yeah, I think obviously he could run, and I think you saw that last season. He had some explosive runs for us. And then I think you also see by the fact that he got caught, the league's not getting slower. It's like there's speed all over the field, and that's why, its execution is such a premium, and being able to let your guys play free and fast is at such a premium because the league is not, it's not getting slower. It's getting faster. Like you got D linemen that are running in the 4s, 4.6, 4.7. Some of these guys, corners, it's like you go to the combine now, it's like 4.3 is the old 4.4. You know what I mean? Like it's not getting slower, and so you see that right there. I mean, he's rolling on that, and he got caught. So I think long story short, it's like you're always looking to try to get explosive and things like that, and try to get our guys in open space, make guys miss, and let them make plays.
Well, Bubba, first of all, we just had a Zoom with Phil Dawson going into the Legends. Just wondering, what are your thoughts on Phil, what he was able to accomplish for this football team?
Yeah, I was informed that he's going to be getting into the Legends, so that's a great accomplishment for him. First off, incredible teammate, in addition to being a great person, and obviously was an incredible football player. Had the privilege to play with Phil all 4 of my years here, and then also for 2 years in San Francisco. So him and I have a really good relationship. Really excited for him and his family. Yeah, Phil Dawson's an incredible person, man. He was a great leader for us. Even as a specialist, he was a vocal leader that spoke up on Saturday nights when we would have player only meetings, and was just a great teammate and was awesome to play with.
Since Phil, it's been a stretch trying to find somebody to kind of fill his shoes. And Dustin, the last year plus has seemed good. Do you see some similarities between Phil and Dustin at all?
I would say as far as the consistency on the field goals, yeah, I think there's obviously similarities there. Elsewhere, I would say probably not. Completely different people. Yeah, two different types of guys. Yeah, both great people though, both great guys.
Hopkins came here 50% on 50 and up field goals in his career.
Yeah.
And he's 10 for 10 with you guys. Well, what's happened to him? In the conversation, has he said to you what's changed, or have you changed anything with him?
No, I think that he's just found a good, like I've always said here whenever I'm asked about this, I think he's just comfortable. I think he's found a good routine. I feel like we've done a good job with him throughout the week. I think his process and his communication with with Corey and Charlie has been really good. So I think that's all contributed to the results.
Phil would always say he's a football player, not just a kicker.
Yeah.
You mentioned him being like, is that hard for guys to do since they're so separated from the rest of the team a lot of the week?
Yeah, I think to my knowledge, Phil played, from what I remember, I think he played linebacker in high school in addition to kicking. But no, he was a football player. I mean, mentality wise, like he wasn't afraid to stick his nose in there if he had to. And the way that he approached the game, the way that he was in meetings, he would take notes. Like he would understand the entire game plan week in and week out, and that's why he was able to be such a good leader, because he understood, the techniques that needed to be played and could help the young guys out. And he really did a good job with that.
He said that on the Zoom today that he was kind of kidding around a little bit about Dustin, that he doesn't have it as hard as Phil did because they filled in some of the some of the corners so the wind doesn't come in off the leg as much as it did. What are your thoughts on that?
Phil would know better than anyone. We used to line up, and like there was times where we would just run. We would call it like check with me, and we would have some signals, and Phil would like tell us, hey, if they're in this alignment, I'm putting the ball here. and his placement was incredible. Like, he would be a dominant kicker with this new format. He would be phenomenal. Like, he'd be ridiculous.
And then how does Corey not get a game ball for that punt on Sunday?
He got a game ball.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he got a game ball.
Oh, was it because after the game, Kevin said he wasn't giving him a game ball, but he would acknowledge him the next day.
Oh, yeah, he was acknowledged the next day. He was acknowledged the next day, as were a handful of other special teamers and offensive and defensive players. So
After the safety, we know it's always a free kick.
yeah,
They came out and they were going to put the ball on the tee after they declared.
yeah.
So, for my own, I don't know the rule, but could you do that? Could you go to a place kick
Yeah, you can.
for onside kick after a safety?
Yes, you're allowed. You're allowed to. You're allowed to put the ball on the tee after a safety, whether you declare for onside kick or not. You have the ability to punt the ball. If you do punt the ball in an onside kick setting, the risk is obviously the ball has to stay in that 25-yard area. So if it exits it would end up being the plus 45, or I'm sorry, the minus 40, the minus 45. Then the ball would be granted to the receiving team. So with the new, once you declare for onside kick, like, you can't kick the ball deep. It has to stay in that 25-yard area. If it exits that, then the receiving team gets the ball.
How good is that punt? Just given the context of everything.
That's a tough punt. That's a tough play. I actually showed. There's a handful of those over the last probably 10 years or so, where the defensive team gets a safety. Now the team that had the safety against them is kicking off. They're trailing in the game, and they chose to hit an onside. Like, at that point, you wouldn't have to declare. You could just do it back then. There was an example that I showed 2 weeks ago before the opener. In the event that would happen, that we'd be able to handle it. And ironically, Rodney McLeod was on the unit in Philly when that happened. And so, the thought process behind it is, you hit this sky punt on the hands team, the receiving team. Most times there's not a lot of guys that can actually field a punt on any roster. Some teams may have 2, 3, 4 at most, maybe, that can actually catch a punt. So now you have 11 guys out there in this confined area, and the ball's straight up in the air. You have to do a good job, obviously, setting up your guys, anticipating what type of punt you're going to get, and then trying to strategize exactly where you're going to put your players to be able to, I would say, have a successful recovery or catch. So I anticipated that's what we were going to get. Thankfully, it worked out well. Had the guys in the right spots, and I thought Prochet executed well and secured the catch. That's a tough ball to hit, or that's a tough ball to catch. And that punter's super talented. He's one of the best in the league.
What's going through your mind, or I guess walk me through your emotions when you have that kickoff that looks like it's going to be your fumble, and then it gets called back? Like, what did you see, and did you know right away it was coming back?
Well, I wasn't watching Dustin run down the field. I was watching the play, but then once I saw the flag, I knew that it had to be that, and I could see on his face, unfortunate. And he even communicated to me that, like, he was almost like felt conditioned to just get down and cover, and it's not an excuse, but we gotta make that correction. That can't happen again. That's such a big play in the game. I think we're up 10-0 at that point. If we get the ball I think we recovered it on the 20. If we get the ball on the 20-yard line, up 10, right now we're already in field goal range at worst case. Yeah, that can't happen. We got to do a better job of, focusing and locking in on the rules and executing better.
How much could you sort of empathize with the Giants last week? Losing their kicker to a hamstring. Well, I mean, it's similar to what you guys went through down in Houston last year. I mean, losing them that early. I mean, how much of a shuffling is that? I mean, what sort of the process as a special teams coordinator to try to handle that?
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough play to deal with. Unfortunately, he got hurt on the play, and not to make matters worse, is that there was a penalty called against Washington that nullified the touchdown. So in the grand scheme, he really didn't have to chase it down. But unfortunate that he's injured, and he's been a really good player in his career, Graham Gano, and hopefully gets back quick.
But we touched on it a little bit, saying that special teams guys got recognized on Monday. But when you guys went back and looked at the game as a whole, how impressed were you with the impact that special teams, Corey, Dustin, et cetera, had on Sunday's win?
Yeah, I will say, after week one, we weren't happy with, how we played, obviously. I thought we prepared well for that game. We didn't execute nearly to the level that we're expecting our guys to do so. And I really just, me and the head coach, we challenged our guys to play better and to play harder. And I thought they did a really good job of responding and bouncing back in that game.
Called out the lack of effort and the fact that you guys didn't play hard enough, and some people backed you up on that, like Miles and Amari said the same thing. I'm just wondering, you're saying that they responded well. Did you get what kind of feedback did you get for kind of putting yourself out there like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think I put myself out there like that. I just feel like I was talking. I know I had mentioned the team in that statement, but I was really talking towards my unit. I felt like in that game we just didn't play to the level of expectation that we have for our unit. I think overall, moving forward, we will have great contributions in all three phases of the game with effort. We've never had an issue with our players' effort here. And I think our players play extremely hard. It's the NFL. It's the NFL, and the other team has a really good team. Every team has a good roster. Every team it's a battle every week, and your guys are going to play hard, and sometimes you're going to get beat, and that's just, it's inevitable. It's going to happen at some point.
So Darvin is back, but was that just roster gymnastics that comes off a pretty good game in game one and then was waived?
I mean, I would say this, like with the roster, I mean, this is everyone's roster in the league that, there's guys that are sign released. It is what it is. I mean, each game is different. So you identify what you think you need in that game and try to prepare and have the personnel that you need to put yourself in the best spot to win. I felt like, James did a nice job in the game and obviously came up big for us in the end.
I think through 2 weeks, there's only been 2 misses. I think kickers are 35 or 37 or something like that on 50-yard kicks. When you look at that stat, like what goes into your mind? What do you think plays a role in the amount of success that kickers are having with long?
Yeah, there are a lot of talented kickers in the NFL. A lot. I want to say after week 1, there was 2 misses over 50, and there was like over 25 attempts or so. I think this past week there might have been another 2 that were missed. I think 16 attempts, somewhere in that range. But a tribute to the talent that's out there. This is a talented league with crazy skill at every position, and it's pretty impressive to see the percentage to be that high. It really is.
I think Corey goes out at the 2.
Yeah.
It feels like there's some luck involved. Some of them hit and bounce in, and some of them hit and bounce sideways. First of all, how much luck? And then, why can't he just kick it out of bounds? I know that used to be something that more punters did. Do you feel like guys have gone away from just kind of, trying to get it to go out of bounds at the 5?
Yeah, I think, I would say, as far as that goes, there's definitely a little bit of risk as far as just trying to hit the ball out of bounds. Because at times you don't want to be too aggressive or too short on that kick, depending on where you're at in the field. Also, I honestly can't remember where we were on the field when he hit that ball. But as far as it checking out of bounds, it was just a great punt, just great execution. I know he's been working on that. That was a point of emphasis for us going into this season, was to be better in the plus 50 area. So he's put in the time. So it was good to see the results on that play.
We talked a lot about the dynamic kicking rule, all exotic plays somewhere down the line. So I know you have a pet play somewhere down the line. My question is, do you practice it every week or wait for the week that you intend to use it?
There's things that will work every single week that we won't necessarily run in a game. You want to keep your guys sharp. You want to keep your techniques sharp. So I would say that we're going to continue in all phases to be able to get as many generic looks and techniques as we can. Just the game's about fundamentals, so we're always going to work our fundamentals in every phase and then apply them to the schemes that we're using in those particular weeks. Yep.